Vicky from Bright Mind, and today we're going to be talking to James Troung from jamestrongofficial.com. Check this out. Welcome to Bright Mind, and today we're going to be talking with a friend of mine from the land down under, Australia. If you really listen to James' story, he talks about going through something difficult in his life and being able to overcome it. Using specific energetic techniques to energy clear hidden block emotions, especially to things that you can be addicted to. I had no idea that you could be addicted to something like a skin cream. Enjoy this episode. James is an amazing person, amazing energy, a best practitioner. He'll be talking about that in the video. And anything that James says when it comes to removing negative energy and just clearing from yourself, people listen. So check out this video and enjoy. Welcome everyone to Bright and Mon podcast. I'm here with James Troung. I'm so excited to have him on the show. James, we've met each other 2020, 2012, 2013 in the Success Club.
Yes.
It's been how many years?
A
And
long
we've
time
stayed
ago.
in touch. James is all the way
It's
from
been
Australia.
okay.
And I'm here in Canada, so it's great that James and I, we kept in touch, and it's great to have you on the show. I know I did one with you on your show. Was it 3 years ago during the pandemic?
Yeah, during COVID.
Like for sure.
Yeah.
So what the reason I have you on, James, because well, not only that, because like you have a high vibration, and I do see your posts on socials and everything. Bright Mind podcast, we want to show people how to like brighten their mind, have a joyful mindset, and to just live a joyful life. And I see even yourself, how you have so much joy when you play with your dog. Even in basketball, you're like shouting out quotes and things like that. And I think it's amazing. It's a lot. I love having people and like just discussing things around that. So just having your vibration high. So yeah, tell us a bit about yourself, James.
Well, first of all, Vicky, thank you for having me on your podcast. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've known each other for almost a decade now.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
a
it's
while.
over. Oh yeah, almost a
Yeah,
decade. It's so amazing.
yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I love basketball. I got into personal development like a while ago when I was 19. I left uni to actually get into that and try to figure out a way to kind of make a living for myself. And
Mhm.
led me down a path of working on my mind and working through all these different techniques. And I think in 2015, actually, I went through a detox process, which took about like 5 years, something called topical steroid withdrawal. And it kind of hit me off, kind of got me off guard because I thought I would be able to handle it in about a month, but actually took a whole 5 years to really get through it. And
Wow.
yeah, during that process, I kind of use a lot of the techniques and the tools that I picked up over the years, going through all the seminars and the personal development stuff to really take control of my emotional state, especially during times when it was really tough. Like I think the first year and a half, I was operating on about 2 hours of sleep every night. Kind of
Wow.
like adrenally exhausted, operating on nothing, and I couldn't have a shower for a very long time because it would burn to get into the water. Um, yeah, so like all the techniques that I picked up, I kind of like created a system for myself to then utilize that to help me transition myself emotionally out of difficult times. Yeah, so it's part of my story.
Wow, I had no idea, James. So
Yeah,
2015, and it took 5 years to detox that?
yeah, it took 5 years. It took 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty crazy, but
what did you have to do? Did you have to take certain things, or did you have to like take herbs, or
no,
did energy
actually,
clear?
I had to get off of stuff that I was using. That was the issue. So my body got addicted to. So I was as a for some reason Asian kids have eczema, so I was one of those. And I used topical steroids. It's kind of like the general prescription that they give you. Well, my parents kind of got me onto it, and they didn't know any better. So like I don't blame them or anything. But
Hmm.
so I ended up using it for about 20 years, and my body, I didn't realize, kind of got addicted to the steroid component of the cream.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started realizing later on, after when I was going through the personal development stuff, they started talking about health and being holistic and natural. And then I started to realize, as I was using more of the creams, it was having less and less effect, and I would have to actually use more of it and increase the intensity, and it wasn't actually helping. And I kind of got to a point where I realized that I'm either going to be on this forever, and this is probably going to kill me at some point because I have to keep increasing the dose, or I have to get off it. So I made a decision 2015, I think it's December or something like that, and yeah, it was not pretty. Your body kind of went into a massive relapse, and then the skin didn't know how to fix itself, so it just kind of like kind of disintegrated a bit for a while. A while meaning like maybe like 2 or 3 years, and then it's just a slow process of just kind of the body trying to figure out how to recreate itself, and then going through the emotional stuff of going through that. Yeah,
That's amazing. I like I've never heard a story like I know that there's the ones that you can ingest and you can get addicting, but I never thought about certain creams that you can be addicted or your skin that can be addicted
yeah,
to. Crazy.
yeah. I
And
didn't know about that.
you were using it
Yeah,
for
I didn't know
20 years.
about that.
Wow. And your body was right when you got off it, I'm sure your body was in shock. Your skin,
Yeah,
especially.
that's basically what happened. Yeah, he went into a massive shock. And then, there's a healing crisis where like things get worse before they get better. So
Mm,
then we go through cycles of getting worse and then getting better. But then those cycles will last for about a week, and then it will start again and then start again and then start again. And then it was like that for about 5 years. Yeah.
wow. So did you, besides like what certain things and tools did you do to help you get through those 5 years? Because that's a lot if it's your body's been used to it since you were like for 20 years. Like what techniques
Yeah.
helped you?
That's a very good question. So some of the tools you use, like there's emotional freedom technique, as you probably know, like the tapping stuff.
Mm,
There was a forgiveness process. I had a lot of resentment around getting myself in that situation, and around my parents and stuff. They putting me there, even though they didn't know. But then there's always that, it's like, why did you put me on this? If you didn't do that, then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this situation. And then also like resentment around some of the people who created the products, like their intention and the whole industry around that. So going through some of the processes, it helped release a lot of the negative emotions that's attached to that. And I think because there's a lot of people that go through this process as well. It's
mm,
called topical steroid withdrawal. There's like a whole group on the internet. And what I found was that a lot of them don't deal with the emotional component. They deal with the physiological aspect of,
mm.
trying to get off the creams and then doing things like exercising and, getting sunlight or whatnot. But I find that the emotional aspect, if you don't deal with that, it makes the detox a lot longer. And it has a dramatic impact on slowing down your ability to get better, I think. Potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's so
Mm,
interesting, James. Like what you just said, how a lot of people they get off like the physical aspect, but they don't. I've
mm,
never heard. I didn't realize that there's also that emotional that you're when it comes to certain
yeah.
prescription creams or drugs that people are used. I didn't. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't think of that and how you're like emotionally connected to that, and you have to
Yeah.
hear that as well. Wow. Yeah, I just had a thought there. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's almost like an addiction almost. So it's almost like
Yeah.
emotionally getting out of addiction, which you didn't realize that you were on. So going through that journey itself is a bit interesting, I would say.
And then is that what led you to doing for sure like EFT and then towards best or what got you towards
Funnily enough, I actually was interested in that stuff before,
mm,
and that that process or that journey of going through the detox actually got me to implement a lot of it. Because before it was kind of a theoretical thing, it was just a hobby, it's just kind of like an interest. I was
mhm.
like, oh yeah, this stuff is pretty cool. And then yeah, and then when I was going through, I was like, oh crap, I actually need this. I actually need to
Wow.
use it. I need to apply the stuff that I learned because like if I don't, I don't know what's gonna happen, because when you're going through it, you actually don't know how long it's gonna take. So I
Mhm.
didn't know it was gonna take 5 years. I read that some people took 3 years, some people took 5 years, some people took like 10 years. You actually don't know how long the process is going to be. So when going through it, you're really taking it day by day. And
Mm.
sometimes it really seems like you're just not getting any better. And you don't even know. Like, it's pretty tough. Like,
No, that's good. That's good that like that little tip that you mentioned on that emotional aspect. Yeah, it's
Mm,
still amazing how the body, you think that you are disconnected to it physically because you just stopped taking it, but you don't realize that that
yeah,
emotional aspect is still there. Wow,
yeah.
yeah, pretty interesting. And that's good that you were able to use like EFT and things like that to do that. And how long have you when did you said you were first of all
Yeah.
best technician technique for all those watching
Yeah.
and listening, what is the best technique?
So the best technique is called bioenergetic synchronization technique. So B.E.S.T, best for short. It was created by a chiropractor who developed it over 40 years of practical experience in his practice, I guess. And then he taught it to his kids and who were also chiropractors. And it's just a way of actually getting to the root cause of the emotional challenges that you have and how certain emotional traumas have are kind of imprinted into your experience and into your energy.
Mhm.
And when you go through the process, it allows you to figure out where those experiences are, how they were imprinted, and the sequence and pattern in which you need to um, unblock that so that you can rebalance the body back to normal.
Mm.
Because it's very difficult to figure out how something is energetically imprinted into you from a logical standpoint because it's in a subconscious level or it's in an energetic kind of like a uh, it's in an energetic format. So if you're trying to read that from a logical point of view, it's very difficult to figure out where all that stuff is. It's like trying to figure out a trauma that happened to you when you're 4 years old, and you don't really remember what anything that happened when you're four. But I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that happened, right? So it gets into that, and it uses the body's own responses, um, like through kinesiology and muscle testing and stuff, to be able to figure out where those blocks are and which emotional frequencies do you need to get into to actually unlock that.
Wow, it's very, yeah, it's fascinating just how the
Yeah.
body can imprint all this information that you've gone through all those years and how you can use this best technique to clear that. Um,
Mm.
and it brings back to the thing I've recently heard of this term called it was called Ashantic. Have you heard of Shantic records? Something like that.
I think I've heard of it. I don't know
Yeah,
much about it, but I've heard of
it's so interesting. It's
it.
just I thought about it because and I went on a recent trip somewhere, and then I went to this dark place where like there are a lot, concentration camps, right? And then I took a video. The plants there were all the plants on that land were dying or just not growing any leaves, but all the plants outside and trees outside the fence were all green. It's because
Interesting.
that energy in that area. And then I heard about this enchantic record. I might be butchering
Yeah.
the word, but it talks about how humans, people, and rocks, plants, they are imprinting information of everything that's around them. So that's
Mm.
why I was thinking about that plant. It can't grow. And I thought about B.E.S.T. I'm like, wait a second, because you're imprinting all these different energies and thoughts that are coming to you, are being downloaded to you, and also from all different lives and that you've lived. It's cool how B.E.S.T is actually helping to clear those imprints. I just thought about that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like everything has energy, and whether
Yeah.
we like it or not, we're kind of experiencing things at all different levels.
Hmm.
And everything that has sentience is experiencing things at all different levels.
Hmm.
So we all kind of share the same experience almost, or the same energetic makeup makes up all of us. So we're all having the same process that we're going through.
Mm. Hmm. And like, for example, B.E.S.T, are there any specific things you can think that's really benefited you or anyone you've helped? Again, a story you can share?
Yeah, I mean, like, so it really gets down to each individual person because when we have people that come in, what they do is they create lists or they kind of outline your experiences that have happened in their life. And I don't actually read any of the experiences. So it's very different from other modalities where you have to kind of like dig into it. You have to talk to someone about your problems. You have to relive some of the experiences. This one's very different. You just create a list, and you can do it very privately, anonymously. You don't have to tell anyone what you've been through. And you can really just put down, even in code if you really wanted to, just a list of every single thing that's happened in your life that you find is a kind of like a significant experience to you, like either a positive or negative, something that really stands out that you feel like is affecting your life. So we usually go through three types of lists. There's like a people list that you create. There's a project list, which is something that you're trying to manifest or something you're working on,
Mm.
and a experience list, so the major experiences, positive or negative. And when we create these lists, or when the person creates this list, they just need to number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the number of stuff they have. They could go up to 100 if they really wanted to. And through the process, your body is actually going to determine which one of these elements is the thing that is keying in for you right now. And
Mhm.
then when we actually do the check, we'll actually see that that thought, when you think about that thing that you've written down, your body will actually be what's called segmented. So it's not aligned, it's out of balance. And then we'll go through the process, probably takes like 5, 10 minutes, and then you'll go back into balance when you think about that thought. And that's how we know that we've actually cleared that specific energy imbalance.
Mm.
So that's everybody has different things, and a lot of the time they don't tell me what it is, and they don't need to, which is
Mhm.
kind of an interesting side benefit actually.
And then when before you perform the energy clearing on them,
Yeah,
do you feel their energy shifts right after when you're complete? Like, can you feel that?
yeah. You
Mm.
can tell when you're going through, especially when you go through the contact points, which is like you're actually holding the specific spots.
Yeah.
You can tell that people process the experiences in a very different way. And usually when we ask them after they've come off the session, because we usually go through like 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes up to like 13 levels deep, depending on how much stuff they can handle. They usually, when they look back at those elements that have written down that have come up, they don't have the same feeling that they did when they came in. So there's a dramatic shift in perspective on how they relate to those past experiences. And that's really what the key is, because when you change how these experiences mean to you or how you relate to them, you actually release your ability to move forward, because what's actually holding you there is how you're relating to that experience. You're relating to it in a negative fashion, so it's keeping you stuck there, right? And then when you just shift that, now you're able to now move forward because it doesn't matter to you anymore, or it's not as important or impactful in that way, in a negative fashion, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Oh yeah, it makes sense. I can see you're very passionate about this subject, and like I can see why
Yeah.
you became a practitioner. But
Yeah.
it's interesting how there are like tools like this that people in the world don't even know about. It's that one
Yeah.
thing that I heard that the movie The Secret was missing was the aspect of energy clearing. And,
Mm.
for someone like you who's able to help clear that, that's amazing. Just people don't realize how much trauma they have with certain things. Like I didn't even know that you can emotional get like emotional distress from even using like a pharmaceutical cream. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. The body holds on to a lot of things. Um and then yeah, it's just really good how and have you had to do your own, like when you were getting cleared of the whole cream thing, like with the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical cream, did
Yeah.
you have to do like several sessions of not just EFT but also BEST over a certain time period?
Yeah. Actually, I think at the time I was working with another best practitioner. So we were like friends at the time. We're still friends, I guess. I just haven't seen him in a while. But he moved away. Like he moved overseas, and then kind of like fell out of contact. But at the time, I think it was we were like living pretty close together. So we would practice. So he would give. I think every week we'd do like sessions for each other, and that's actually how I got a lot of the experience. Is actually through
Mm.
that practice. So I'll work with him every week, and then I'll work with my family and some of the friends that I had. And yeah, I told my partner how to do it, so she can do treatments for me now if I need it. Because you kind of like require someone else to actually give you the reads of what's going on. It's a little bit difficult to do it by yourself. But there's other processes that you can do by yourself. I mean, like the EFT or the tapping,
Mm.
forgiveness process. So usually there's kind of like three kind of steps that I go through. The first one is to like acknowledge. So you want to acknowledge your situation, you want to acknowledge the emotion, or you want to acknowledge your life in such a way that it's going to compel you to transform it. So it's really just getting real about how you feel about the situation. So when I
Mm.
was going through the topical steroid thing, certain times I'll be up at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and I just be like so irritated because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't my body regulation, like the heat temperature was like completely out of whack. I was wearing a jumper and like in the middle of summer at
Goodness.
like 3 a.m. in the morning. It's really weird. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
weird. Your body's just completely out of whack. You're not sleeping. You got work in the morning, and it's been like 6 months already, and you have like like uncurable itch that's like there
Wow.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just can't get rid of it, right? So in those moments I would acknowledge, I'm actually really annoyed at this situation. I'd be like upset, sometimes a bit depressed, like you get into different modes. But to really just acknowledge that, just get honest with how you really feel about it is a really big step. The second step is to activate the right pattern or activate the right frequency that you want. That's going to help you correct the imbalance.
Hmm.
And we do things like the EFT to activate that. You can do like the B.E.S.T treatments or other processes. And the last thing is to achieve alignment with or achieve an emotional alignment congruency with creating a life by design and not by default. So it's really about creating an environment and a system around yourself that in the future, this is where I'm going. So when I was about 2 to 3 years in, or even at the start, I knew that I was going to get over it at some point. I just didn't know how long it was going to take. So I started to future pace what my life would be like when this was finished. All the things I could do, these are the things that I could eat, right? Because right now my diet's not very good when I'm going
Hmm.
through it. This is how I would feel. These are the things I could do. I could do. I could go to the beach. I could play basketball. So I was really starting to get myself into that frame and align myself with that on a day-to-day basis, and just chunk those goals down each day and be like, okay, what can I really focus on and believe in today? And those are the three steps that I kind of use, and that's the system that I've kind of created. So it's just to acknowledge, to activate, and then to achieve.
That's awesome. Acknowledge, activate, and achieve. Ah, okay. So the three A's.
Yeah,
I saw that on your page.
yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
I really like, and did I noticed you used to even play basketball before when I first met you,
Yeah.
but like are you finding that it helped you with your healing process?
I definitely did. Yeah. So for about a year and a half, I couldn't play basketball. So I was pretty much bedridden for about 6 months, the first 6 months. And then I slowly
Oh.
was able to then have showers, which is kind of a painful process actually. Actually, like having a shower is painful. It's really weird. Um, because like the skin was so paper thin that like it feels like you have like paper cuts, and then when you go into the water, it's like it feels
Oh
like you're
my
being
gosh,
shredded.
James.
Yeah, it's very painful.
I had
Yeah,
no idea that you
so
went through all this. That's crazy. Like you can see just how
yeah,
mentally tough a person you are.
yeah. My only regret actually, I didn't take any photos. That's my only
Yeah,
regret.
that would have
Because I
been
wasn't on
good,
social
like to
media at the
see
time.
before and
I was
after.
Yeah, because like if you look at my Facebook page, like I have like pictures from when I was like 19, and then I just have like a big blank area for like 10 years where I didn't take any photos. And then I started doing social media, like, but this was like way after I already finished. Like I went through the whole, well, I was coming off probably like the last 6 months of coming off the detox process, I started doing social media. So I don't really have that many photos of the very early one. Um, might have to ask Sally. I'll see if she has them.
Was
But
there any like one time, like during that whole 5 years, because it sounds you're bedridden for 6 months, that you said you thought, you know what, this is a bad idea. I'll just go back to using this cream. It's just a better way.
yeah, like those thoughts do come in, and like a lot of people in the community, they do. Some people actually go back into, they can't handle it. They can't handle the detox process. They actually go back onto the creams. I kind of realized that when I made a decision, this is kind of like I'm committing to it, no matter
Mm.
how bad it gets. And I was like, this could take 5 years, 10 years. I'm just gonna do it, and I gotta see it to the end because like if I go back, then I know where that path goes. That just goes back to a life of being completely codependent on them forever until it kind of kills you, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as like if someone's on like drugs or something or like very very heavy drugs, you're gonna have the cravings to go back because you've got that addiction to it. But you know that if you do go back, you know where it goes, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of it was kind of that knowingness when I stopped. I was like, I'm gonna stop. Like, there's no way I'm going back.
You're like, I'm gonna do it. That's it. Period. It's like a decision.
Basically, yeah, basically. Well, I committed, or honestly, I committed for a month. That was my initial commitment. And then after a month, I realized this is pretty bad. Like,
Yeah.
let's just go for another 3 months and see if I can get over it. And then it just kind of I just kept pushing it further down the track. And then I think about a year or so, I realized like, all right, I gotta stick this out
It's so
because I already
it's so
wasted a whole
interesting.
year. I'm not like it will be a waste of a year if I go back and then
Yeah.
nothing happens or it gets worse, right?
It's so interesting because it
Yeah,
could be addiction to anything. It could be addiction to like
yeah,
food, a bad relationship, just like,
yeah,
just these bad habits. And you're a success story in that. Like if you can overcome something like this, like your skin's like the biggest organ on your body, right? And imagine I
yeah.
can't even fathom the pain that you went through, but you were still able to
Mm,
get through it. So I think it's just amazing and how you create your system to help overcome that.
mm,
And it just makes me think, the things that like other people out there who are might be going through the same thing you're going through or anything that they're addicted to, that they can use different techniques like your system, the best technique, tapping, to help clear or help get through those tough times. So thanks for sharing that.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's
it's all
really
right.
no, that's an amazing story. I just can't, yeah, I had no idea that you were bedridden and everything, and you look like a new
Yeah,
person.
I know, right? Like it's yeah, I should suppose because it looks different now. Like it looks fine now, but it really was that bad. And actually, I actually have a lot of sunspots now because
Mm,
back I never had sunspots. So what happened was like when my skin was kind of like regenerating itself or learning how to regenerate itself properly,
mhm,
it was very like white, like very like pale and like bare. So I didn't have like the melanin anymore. And before going into the detox period, I actually had a lot of melanin. I was very tan. So I was used to going out in the sun playing basketball and stuff a lot. So when I started getting to basketball again, I didn't realize my skin was too sensitive to the heat and to the sun. So a couple of years later, like coming off it, I started to realize I got heaps of sunspots now because I didn't look after my skin during that period. It was
wow.
yeah, it's
Oh
something I didn't
yeah.
actually expect. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially like having all that stuff. And then you said you have some sunspots. Did other like other than that, like your face, everything's good. Everything looks clear now.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, yeah. But
Really good.
5 years, wow. Like if you think of anyone trying to do something in 5 years, a lot of people just quit, right? And you just kept going because you knew that this was
Mm,
just better for you. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just impressed. It just makes me think of just things that, yeah, that I want to get through. And I'm like, wow, James can do this. Like, yeah. And like, if you could
Mm.
tell anyone like out there that are going through any addictions or going through anything like what you went through or going through things that they want to overcome, like, what would you say to them? Because like, look at you, you were able to succeed in like doing like getting through the skin thing. This is like I feel like this would be one of the most toughest things because it's the skin and you're always feeling it's shower
Yeah.
everything. So what advice would you give to them?
Um, I'll say just take it day by day. Uh, have the have the dream in mind in terms of like how your life is going to be. And if things do
Mm,
turn around, things do get better, and your body does heal itself.
mm,
So you need to trust that your body can do that. To facilitate it doing that faster, or to it doing that more effectively, you do have to let go of a lot of the emotional stuff. As on top of having the physiological changes that you have, meaning, having the right diet, doing the right things, exercising and all that kind of stuff. So on top of the physiological component and the physical stuff, you do need to really deal with the emotional aspect, because as you know, a lot of the physical manifestations come from emotional challenges and from the
Mm-hmm.
non-physical. And if we don't deal with the root cause of the emotional stuff, even though we have some sort of physical toxin or physical challenge in our life, that lack of dealing with the emotional thing and clearing it is going to make it so much slower to allow your body to be in the right place to be able to achieve its like homeostasis again. And yeah, I guess that's my advice. Take it day by day. You know, Obviously there's going to be times where you get overwhelmed and times where it gets pretty bad. But if you just think of it, if you chunk the time down to a shorter time frame, and
Mm-hmm.
just focus on getting through this moment and getting through this second, then eventually you're gonna get there.
Wow. I love that. I love the key nugget you said there, James. You just said how if you don't clear that emotional side of things, like that thing that you're going through, it will stay. So that's amazing. I love that. I love how you said that.
Yeah.
And I love how you said taking it like step by step, like little chunks at a time, rather than trying to expect it to happen within 1 month. Like you mentioned, you're
Yeah.
committing to
Yeah, I learned
one
that one the
month.
hard way. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, and then end up being 5 years. Wow. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I know like our time's almost up, but where can people find you, especially if they want to know about best technique, bio energetic systemization technique, and yeah, and just you, and just how they can connect with you on, if they want to reach out with your story, and if yeah, they can reach out for help.
So social media is kind of the main place where I live, I guess. Is I live on Instagram a lot. So James_A_T_E. I should probably change my handle, but I also have a website. It's JamesTruong official.com. So JamesTruong official.com. Or you can email me at jtemofree@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. And I'll actually we can take something up, and I'll help you go through some of the processes if you want. And for any of your viewers, I guess, if they want to reach out to me on my email, yeah, we can set something up and we can share some of the tools. Because once you have the tools, you can start to implement it yourself.
Mhm.
And the whole goal is to not be codependent on someone else or some external
Mhm.
thing like a cream or whatever, but to be completely independent. And when situations arise, and there are going to arise, that you have the tools and the techniques and you have ownership over those tools and techniques, you're able to transition yourself emotionally from any state to any state of positivity. So you can go from irritation, frustration, anger, resentment to joy to forgiveness and love. And that's what a lot of the tools are used for.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much, Jamie. You had such a wealth of knowledge and information just on, and your story. I had no idea on your story. So thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I will have your Instagram, website, and email on the comments below section of the video. Um, but other than that, the one thing I want to add in or ask before our meeting ends here is, what's like the one thing that going through this whole process of getting rid of this topical cream addiction, what's the main thing that
Mm.
you learned about yourself and just about just the whole process?
Um, Main thing I learned about myself is that although things can get really bad, and they did get really bad, um, emotionally and physiologically as well, the body is so resilient. Like there were certain times where I thought I was gonna die. I was like, man, I'm like done today. I don't know how I'm gonna survive for the next 2 hours. All right. I was like toast. And I don't know, the body just is just resilient. Like it can get through it, you know, and especially if you get rid of the emotional stuff, you don't let it consume you.
Mhm.
Um, then just trust that your body can handle it, you know. And that's kind of what, because before this whole process, I thought I was invincible. So I haven't really had any like major physical health issue prior to this. So this is kind of a wake up call for me as well. That your time is also short, you know. You know,
Mhm.
we're not going to live forever, you know, even though your body is strong and it can get through a lot of stuff. You know, you should value the time that you have, and really, you know, you shouldn't be afraid of the future in terms of, you know, what can happen and what can, like, all the things that could potentially happen, and, you know, maybe you could die from this other thing. But what you really use that for is actually catalyze you actually applying things today. You know, your time is short, so you should make the most of what you have. You know, make the most of your life, and make the most of the experiences that you have, and really share some of those experiences, because they can really help other people. I mean,
Mhm.
like, it really can. I think even though people don't go through this specific circumstance that I went through, I'm sure they go through other stuff in their day-to-day life, you know, with work and their relationships, and um, maybe they have some kind of addiction to something else, you know, whether it's alcohol, like cigarettes or something like that. But yeah, if you can even just like share anything that's
Mhm.
going to help any single person, then I think that's a good way to go, you know. Um,
Mhm.
that's all I
Thank
got.
you. That's like that's perfect. That was a perfect ending to this interview and podcast. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know the time, it's a definitely a different time difference
It's
from
okay. It's not
Canada
too bad.
and Australia, but we made it work.
It's
So
not too bad. It's not too
yeah,
bad.
thanks so much for sharing your knowledge on, best, your story, and uplifting people. Like I feel like your vibrations completely, like I haven't seen you in person for a long time, but man, it's gone way up there. So it's I can feel your energy. So
I appreciate
thanks again,
that.
James. I always love our like little chats. Maybe one day we will have our own like
Yeah.
face to face, right? So
Yeah,
it'd
maybe
be
we'll come
nice
to
to see
Canada
you guys
sometime.
again. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you're ever in Canada or if I ever go to Australia, definitely I'll call you
I'll let
up.
you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, James. Thanks again for joining Brighten Mind
Cool.
Podcast.
I appreciate the time. Appreciate you having me on here, Vicky.
Yeah,
And
I appreciate your time too. Thanks so much.
any of your watchers, you should subscribe to
Oh
Vicky
yeah.
and Brian White.
Awesome. Thanks, James.